The concept of peace is a promising concept for humanity, long awaited, yet it remains unattainable. Would the Federation even allow galactic peace? What would a managed democracy become if fear disappeared? Broadcasts celebrate sacrifice and vigilance, but never talk about peace. Today we're going to ask what no one dares to ask. Is galactic peace what Super Earth fears most? Let's dig deep. The Second Galactic War began in 2184. Since then, the map hasn't rested. Automatons in the west, Terminids in the east, and the Illuminate in the south. But no one ever speaks about ceasefires or peace. Major orders constantly roll in and sectors are lost, recaptured and lost again. This is a war with the potential to run forever. The Federation's leaders promised a fix for the Terminid outbreak at the beginning of the Second Galactic War. The Terminid Control System, or TCS in short. It failed terribly, mutating the swarm and giving birth to a super colony of bugs on the former planet of Meridia. This consequence was unforeseeable, they said, but the next fix was even more ambitious. Inject dark fluid in Meridia's crust to erase the planet while also erasing the threat. Meridia collapsed. A singularity commonly called the Meridian black hole formed. Later clarified as a wormhole, the Illuminate tried to steer. It quickly became obvious that they began steering that singularity towards Super-Earth, until a repulsive gravity field generator froze it in place and imploded. You could see a pattern developing by now. Every solution pushed a bigger problem back to tomorrow. The danger wasn't theoretical. An earlier dark fluid research facility accident generated a micro black hole that spaghettified 12 researchers before evaporating. An official strawman news broadcast turned this into a patriotic shrug. No consequences were taken and production resumed as normal. Theoretically, the TCS wasn't the only imaginable approach, but Super-Earth's economy is desperately linked to E710, the fuel that moves the space fleets. Research notes and public entries portray a state obsessed with extraction and throughput. Some even see a possibility that yield increases under stress, though this is still speculative. If that was true though, it might give the theory that Super-Earth releases the bugs willingly from their quarantine to fuel the war effort and yield more E710 much more rate. Cause think about it once again. Why else were the Terminids able to launch so many simultaneous attacks at the beginning of the Second Galactic War when all of them were actually defeated and under quarantine after the First Galactic War? Nonetheless, every quick fix seems to ensure minimal downtimes and maximum output, no matter what the costs and consequences are. Their policy seems to be, let tomorrow inherit the side effects of our decisions today. Peaceful containment is slow and tedious, but acts of war gave Super-Earth quicker results, and it's up to you to decide if these results were worth the victims. Let's focus on a typical course of actions of the Federation. For example, problem? Terminids breach quarantines. Solution? Deploy the TCS. Problem? It caused mutations on the Meridian supercolony. Solution? Dark fluid to kill the planet. Problem? The Meridian wormhole forms. Solution? Fight the returning Illuminate. Problem? The Illuminate steer the wormhole directly towards Super-Earth. Solution? the repulsive gravity field generator to halt it. Status: the Illuminate retreat or regroup, and the wheel keeps turning. Here's the tricky part. Galactic Peace threatens the state's identity and infrastructure. The Ministry of Truth loses its daily feed of victories and patriotic updates on the war. The Ministry of Unity will have a hard time criminalizing dissidents for questioning a war that is already over. And the Ministries of Defense and Expansion can't justify mobilization without an enemy or a frontier. Pull the enemy out of the frame and the picture falls apart. In a system that treats war as proof of life, the concept of peace results in a fatal system crash. But to be fair, if you look at the history of the Federation, this is not surprising. Just look at their history of origin. Way before the First Galactic War, in the aftermath of the gigantic and global Last Great War, the Federation of Super-Earth was founded. But this process was anything but peaceful. The Helldivers originally were more of an enforcement riot police than the expeditionary space marines of today. They were necessary because it was a painful and violent act, uniting the entire world under one unified banner of the Federation of Super-Earth. War and fighting is in their DNA. And if you zoom closer to the beginning of the First Galactic War, conflict with the Illuminate wasn't inevitable. Records from the First Galactic War describe an early peace offering, but it was rejected by the Federation in favor of a preemptive strike. Super-Earth didn't just prepare for war, they organized their entire society around it. In that sense, every cure must keep the patient sick enough to continue treatment. Projected on Super-Earth, every strike should be devastating, but not fatal, because wiped out enemies cannot fight back and keep the war machine running. So yes, history shows the Federation's actions are similar to a conveyor belt. Each fix manufactures the next crisis, each victory feeds the next budget, and each temporary measure writes the next chapter. So if peace ever arrives, it won't be because the machine found the brakes, it will be because someone cut the power. War isn't interrupting life on Super-Earth. War is how life is administered. Operating systems don't shut themselves off. They're replaced, maybe by design, maybe by accident, or maybe by people who decide that peace is more favorable than a war without an end. At the end of the day, peace for Super-Earth is only attainable when war is seen for what it is, and not what the Federation makes of it. War should always be the last viable option and not the first action taken. But for this to happen, the mindset of the population would have to forget mostly everything the Federation has taught them, to release themselves from the shackles of propaganda. Even though this is unlikely, hope remains. You, my dissident friends, keep this channel alive, so stay active, stay vigilant. Freedom through knowledge only works if someone is listening.